Hello and welcome. This is Bhaskar Napte from Pharma Growth Hub, and I hope you are doing great. So, as a part of today's video, we are going to talk about whether we can implement indirect testing procedures like conductivity or total organic carbon analyzer for monitoring of cleaning. So, once you conduct the cleaning, whether these indirect testing procedures can be implemented or not is the point of discussion today. So I'm referring to the US FDA validation of cleaning process 7 oblique 93 guideline to discuss this particular topic. So let us begin with the presentation. And before we move on to whether it is really acceptable or not, let us first understand what is mean by direct testing or what is meant by indirect testing. So the direct testing procedure is nothing but a testing method that is specific to the contaminant. For example, if you are manufacturing a paracetamol API, and in case if you have a testing procedure like HPLC, which is very specific for the response of the paracetamol, then you can say I have a direct testing procedure because my test procedure can specifically determine the concentration of paracetamol present into a sample. I hope you understand the direct test procedure. And what is meant by a direct test procedure? Okay, it is very simple. A testing method that is not specific to the contaminant, like we talked about the paracetamol API. So, in case if you have a test procedure which is not specific to the paracetamol concentration present into a sample, then you will say, okay, so I have a direct testing procedure. And the example of such kind of test procedures are what? Like TOC or the conductivity. Now, these techniques like conductivity or the TOC, they will give the response to some of the components. But can you guarantee that whatever responses that you are getting out of measurement of conductivity or measurement of the total carbon is really belongs to a paracetamol? It can be belongs to the another contaminants present into a sample. I mean another components present into a sample. So you will get collectively response due to the carbon or due to the organic carbon if you talk about a TOC as my testing procedure. Or you can get a conductivity out of all the components present into your sample. And you cannot say that, I this conductivity result is only belongs to a paracetamol present into a sample. So it is always a collective measurement out of the components which can respond to that particular technique. So you are not guaranteed sometimes whether there is X component present into a sample, will it get respond onto the TOC? It may not. So in direct test procedure and direct test procedure, the major difference is their specificities. Direct test procedures guarantee you a specificity. The response is very, very specific or selective towards your analyte, your component or the contaminant. Whereas in case of indirect test procedure, you are not very much sure that whatever response that you are measuring is only related to that particular contaminant or not. It is always a collective measure of all the components present into a sample. I hope you understand the meaning of direct and indirect test procedure. And once you understand that, now let us move on to our question of whether an indirect test procedure can be used to monitor the cleaning. So once you complete the cleaning, your intention is to verify the content of contaminant present onto the surface. And the contaminant can be your previous product. The contaminant can be their degradants of your previous product, or the contaminant could be the cleaning agents that are used to clean the surface. And you are now going to monitor those contaminants onto the surfaces. The question is, can the indirect test procedures like TOC or conductivity or maybe sometimes pH be used or not? So according to this particular guideline, Indirect testing, such as conductivity testing, may be used for routine monitoring once a cleaning process has been validated. So it is very clear indication that the indirect testing procedures cannot be used for the cleaning validation. I mean, you are validating a cleaning process and you are quantifying the content of the contaminants. So during that particular time, you have to use a direct testing such as HPLC or gas chromatography, which is very selective or specific with respect to the response to the contaminant. But the indirect testing procedure can only be used and employed upon validation of the cleaning process. It cannot be used just during the cleaning process validation. Second point, if equipment can be sampled only using rinse solution. So there are two different sampling techniques. One is called as the swab sampling and the second one is called as the rinse sampling. So in case of swab sampling, you will take the sample out of a very specific location or the place from the surface of the equipment. Now, in case if the swabbing is not possible, for example, a big reactor, a centrifuge machine, a piping, and between the piping, no one can reach, and during that situation, the swab sampling is not a option. So during that time, you can employ the rinse solution sampling. So you just give the cleaning and then you again rinse the equipment with the cleaning solvent and then you collect that solvent as a sample. That is called as a rinse solution sample. So in case if your equipment can only be sampled using rinse solution samples, then the indirect test procedure can be used. Third point, if indirect test method have been shown to correlate with the condition of the equipment. Now this point is very, very important. Unless and until you prove there is a correlation between the condition of the equipment, you cannot use the indirect testing method. Now what is meant by correlation? The correlation in terms of if you say that now look at here, I clean the equipment which met the specification and I quantified the result based on to my direct method, direct testing like HPLC. And if I test the same sample with the indirect method like conductivity, I also got the result meeting the spec. So what I am proving? I am proving that there is a correlation between the condition of the equipment. If the equipment meets the residue specification by direct testing, it also has met the specification after employing the indirect testing. So correlation with the condition of the equipment has been proven. And how one can prove that, So during validation, the firm should document that testing the uncleaned equipment gives a not acceptable result for the indirect test. So deliberately you will have a dirty equipment in the place which is not meeting the your macro requirement swab limit and it has been tested by using the direct test method and you come across okay now the results are out of the spec. You again test the same sample one more time by using indirect test. Now what is expected result over here? Your result should not meet the specification and if you can get such kind of correlation for uncleaned equipment, then what you can say that okay, my indirect test procedure actually correlate with the condition of the equipment. And if all these above 4 points meets the requirement, you can use the indirect testing during the monitoring of the clean surfaces or the equipment. So I hope you must have now got an sense in what situation the indirect testing can be employed for monitoring of the cleaning. Thank you so much.